just me. My name. Or just search Hearts of Iron 4 live tutorial and filter by streams or today or something. Maddie just got a notification I'm streaming. I love it. We're going to open up Hearts of Iron 4 in the meantime.
There you go.
You should.
Oh, I thought you meant like Dust Death Trooper 900, not Dust.
My real name, yeah. You probably should just subscribe to me.
Just
It'll be a little bit faster in the future. Alright, let's get this all loaded in. You're going to be a little bit behind me, so I will try to answer your questions. You might want to mute the audio. Alright, so. Alright. Gaiety is the most outstanding feature of the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin. Okay. Can we get started, please? There we go. New game, July 1936, German Reich. For the purposes of not having to worry about actually playing or winning the game, we're just going to put it on Strength in Germany. And start. I have no idea how far behind you're going to be from me. It shouldn't be very far, though. Yeah, see, I'm at loading graphics, so there we go. Alright, so, like I said, for most countries, the first thing you want to do is get rid of the sound so I can hear things. Actually, you know what, I'll leave it on, but I'm going to lower it a lot. There we go. So, like I said, first thing you'll probably want to do is take stock of your territory. In this case, you know, Germany. How many states do you have, yada yada. You want to figure out, you know, your army, so it's like where it is, how it's positioned, what its composition is. You can take a quick look at your army through your division overview, which is this little button right here. It's a shortcut O if you're into that sort of thing. You can see like what the units are. We can go by name here or type. There we go. Where they're assigned, what army they're part of, the name of the division, and what type they are. We can also, you know, see by different things to get an overview. So you got a cavalry division, a mountaineer division, a motorized, 3 tank divisions, and 24 infantry divisions. And I'm using the NATO symbology, so it might be a little different than you. This is the actual like NATO military unit counters. You can kind of see, this is like all the statistics for our army, like how good they are at like attacking over night time, how fast they are, how much yeah? Dude, this is like base game. Hell, Russia has they've got like 187. By the end of this, dude, we can fight with 400 divisions representing like, you know, several million men. Right now, our current army is only 600,000, not even 600,000, it's 269,000 men, 28,000 air servicemen, and 24,000 naval servicemen. Are you kidding? I need at least 600,000 to start some certain focuses. Your army has to be a particular size. I am not. I am like one of the weakest militaries in the major powers. 30 divisions. The UK has 31 at minimum. France has at least 60. Spain has. Well, Spain's not a major yet.
The Allies took all your shit away.
Pretty much. But you'd be surprised how quickly we can expand the military. Which reminds me, I can barely hear you for some reason. I'm gonna boost your audio. There. Okay. So I like to, like I said, put everything together in one big army to keep track of things. So we gather all the infantry troops together, all 24 divisions of infantry. Gather the mountaineer troops together. We'll set them on the Austrian border for now. All one division of you. These guys are the tank and SS divisions. Motorized troops, technically, but we call them SS because Germany. Alright, that's done. Let's set our research options. Like I said, I always like to start with engineering and industry because this is still before military technology becomes a real problem. So getting these things is all the basics to starting that. Mechanical engineering increases your research or decreases research time. This increases your production efficiency, which will lead into choosing what type of industry you do. Your construction, which will increase your repair speed and your build speed, and then building better refineries. Set up our free civilian factories. I always start with personally building infrastructure, and I try to angle it in certain places. Like I know through national focuses I can increase the infrastructure level of, well, for example, like through national focuses I can increase the infrastructure level of Brandenburg, Thurgen, Sachsen, Franken, and Hassan. So I don't ever build there instead because I know I'll be able to get them for free. In the meantime, let's set our military production. We're going to add increasing in our artillery, tanks, set up a line of naval bombers. We should be good there. 2, 3, 2, 3. We still have 6 more to go. Set up 2 anti-aircraft, a 3rd support, and we'll add 3 more for guns. There we go, national focuses. So in this case, I'm going to take 5 world focus to militarize the Rhineland. Let's assign these divisions. Oh, right, I forgot about the cavalry. So each type of unit has different purposes, and depending on how you design the divisions, they may be better or worse for their particular job. Infantry, for example, are your cast-all divisions. They can do anything reasonably well, but they're not. The one thing they can do better than anyone else is defend. With a lot of people, you can pretty much cover territory, and it makes it very difficult to push back without the proper equipped divisions. Either better equipped infantry divisions, specialized divisions. So in this case, this is a generic 3-company infantry division that pretty much everyone starts with at some point. There's about 9,600 men. Most of them just have basic rifles with a small company of support artillery, which in this case I believe means that that's local artillery. So light 10-centimeter field howitzers, mortars, little shit. Not that great, but 24 guns is better than 0, and it gives the company a little bit of punch. And an engineer company has specialized equipment to allow them to better dig into locations. They can build specialized structures like pillboxes or fortifications, wood bunkers and trenches, and yada yada. On the offense, though, an engineer company can do the opposite. They can build special bridging, which lets them move across rivers faster, or they have the equipment needed to get through demolition structures, like for example, heavy coastal forts, which gives them an amphibious bonus for attacking. Same with dealing with jungle. You can take advantage of jungle terrain to create wood bunkers, which gives you a defense bonus. Marshes, defense and movement. Forts, demolition charges and special clearing equipment gives you a 10% attacks against fort, and if you're defending a fort, further enhancing that position. You get the idea. Engineer companies are probably the most useful thing in the game, and if every division doesn't have one, you're an idiot. Except for, of course, non-combat divisions, but we'll get to that. Like I said, though, infantry is the best defensive and generalized offensive unit. Tanks are the best offensive unit because of their sheer firepower. So that means high attack and high breakthrough. in this case, in Hearts of Iron 4 has when Hearts of Iron 4 and when two divisions get into combat, you have two things. You have strength and organization, which, if you see the divisions, is this green and orange line specifically. So the higher your organization, that represents like how ready and organized a unit is. And so when they have no organization, they literally can't fight or move very well. If that makes you feel any better.
Yeah.
Also, what was that?
For that.
Okay. Anyway, so in this case, like when your units have no organization, that means your men are exhausted. They can't like effectively fight. But with strength, that represents their physical capabilities. That means literal men, literal guns. You know, if your strength reaches 0, the division gets destroyed. If your organization reaches 0, the division will be forced to retreat to a province to regain its initiative after losing combat. So after a certain amount of time, which is usually a number of days or hours, that unit will regain its organization and then continue combat. All combat incurs some losses to strength, but if you can force a division to continue fighting after it's lost its organization, that's when its strength dips, and that's how you cripple an army.
Oh, okay.
As an example. So another way to kill divisions is to overrun them, which is through a process called encirclements. If a division has nowhere to retreat and it runs out of organization, it will surrender and automatically be destroyed. The men will be captured, and basically they will be removed from the manpower of an enemy country. All the equipment will be destroyed or captured, and that division will no longer be useful to anyone. Well, I guess it'll still be useful to you because it's not useful to your enemy. But I digress. Some other statistics to look at while we're looking at like the army setup. These little bars here and the symbols, that's your veterancy. So you can train your army from green, which is a little like a little like 4-leaf clover, to regulars, which are fully trained regular troops. That's the highest. That's the highest you can train your troops. But through combat, they can gain veteran and experienced like levels of combat stuff, which will give them a modifier. In this case, regular troops get 25% combat modifiers. I think veteran troops get like 50%. So it's worth it to have veteran divisions, and you don't want to lose that veterancy if possible. Which will happen if your units take casualties. Like, basically, I think you lose like a point of veterancy for every 10% of your casualties or something like that. So like you'll lose like a point of veterancy 1 out of every 10 men, something like that. The shield with a little shovel under it, that's your entrenchment. When your divisions are stationary or static, they will entrench themselves in that location, digging like defensive fortifications. So every day they'll gain 1 point of entrenchment, multiplied by whatever your maximum is, and then modifiers in this case. So my troops will actually gain 50% extra veterancy because of the modifier I put at the beginning of the game that strengthens Germany. They can get 20% entrenchment, which is however long it takes. So in this case, it'll be 5%. But because of the template design with the engineers, I get an extra 5 points of entrenchment every day. So in 20%, that'll probably be in 5.66 days. I'll be able to reach 20% veterancy or entrenchment, which means they're the best dug in they can be at the time. The rest of this will save until later.
Can you hear the wind blowing in the mic?
No, I can hear the wind from the game. Do you want me to turn that down?
No. My fan is blowing in the mic, and I can hear it, and I thought it was loud.
No, I don't hear that. Anyway, so we've set up everything we need to do before starting time. The rest of it's just kind of to cover things as we run across them. So I'm going to start time to 4 speed, which is just a little bit faster than 1 second equals an hour, and we'll let things go. Actually, while we're doing that, we'll start organizing our navy. In this case, I like to bring the German submarine fleets together, so I've changed what I did right there is I changed their main base from Weisser Ems to Schleswig-Holstein. We're going to combine these U-boat fleets together with this button here, which is merging, and we'll assign them an admiral, since Karl Dönitz was the submarine head. He has the Sea Wolf trait, which makes submarines 20% more effective. So he'll be able to make the most use of those submarines. Meanwhile, the Kriegsmarine, if you'll notice in my production tab, I have a number of warships already being built from the start of the game that are in various states of completion. You notice that they're set to deploy at auto. That means that the game will choose a harbor and deploy them. In this case, they should all deploy in Weiss or Ems, which means they'll deploy here to this fleet in a flotilla. If there is an existing flotilla for a production line, you can set that to, for example, I could set it to always deploy to the Kriegsmarine or always deploy to that place. But if there's an existing, like, non-set flotilla like German Reich Flotilla 1, then they'll automatically join that flotilla upon construction. Right. So when we come back a little bit later, we'll notice that this flotilla will now have a number of ships in it, and we can then reassign them to new navies, or do with them what we will. Okay. So let's see. Rhineland's progressing well. When we get some political power, I'll show you what all this means, and like the politics and national spirits and all that, yada yada. Insufficient resources. Yeah. You'll notice that Germany already starts out trading tungsten with Sweden. That's fine, because we'll definitely start delving into that pretty quickly, so we'll just keep the trade going.
Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. It tries to.
What?
Germany invaded Sweden.
No, they invaded Norway.
No.
They actually did capture Norway, and they fortified it. Denmark, too. In this particular case, that was Operation Weserübung, which you can actually recreate here, which is, it will let you get a war goal on Denmark and Norway, and the point was to secure this particular channel called the Danish Belts, which if we switch to the naval view mode, we can see here. That's this area, and with when you control, these are what we call like naval corridors or canals. In this case, this is a naval corridor, so these are like areas where the ocean is so close to the land that you can, by controlling the land, you can control whether or not a navy can pass through there. So by controlling all the little marked blue areas, in this case here, all that, we can prevent enemy ships from traveling in this entire province through here. So in this case, neutral, anyone can pass through, you can see all the likely things, but if it's contested, only submarines can pass through. If we control it, our enemies can't pass armies, navies, submarines, or trade, and when we control it, our armies, navies, submarines, and trade can pass through it. There's a couple places like that. So there's the Danish Belts, there's the Riel Canal. We're going to ignore that pop-up that just came up in a second. Over here, you've got the Panama Canal. Let's see, what else? Oh, the Suez Canal. And the Gibraltar Strait. And the Istanbul Canal, which is the lead to the Black Sea. Anyway, we've got some political power now. 150 is usually the base that you're going to need to make any decisions. So you'll notice some things that modifying government has come up now, and it can tell you everything you can do. In this case, I'm going to pick a new political advisor, particularly Rudolf Hess, because he has a modifier that will give us 15% more political power, which will let us modify our politics faster. So now I've hired him. You'll notice that because of Rudolf Hess, I have 15% extra political power, which equates to 3.3 political power every day. While we're waiting, I'm going to deploy or recruit a couple new infantry divisions. Let's see. Looks like about 5 is what I can reasonably recruit at one time while having enough equipment. And we'll notice the Rhineland focus just completed. That paused time automatically because of a setting I have. So I can finish this. We'll set 20 divisions of infantry to start being trained in groups of 5. They'll come out in Berlin, in Brandenburg, in the province of Brandenburg, I should say. And we can then assign them to armies or have them start additionally training in war game scenarios to get them up to a better status. In the meantime, now we can set a new national focus. So, in this particular case, you'll notice that the Rhineland no longer has this red zone around it, and the Allies have an opportunity to respond. They're going to get a event saying, hey, Germany's, they militarized the Rhineland, what do we want to do about that? And they can protest it, and they can even threaten to go to war over it, which has happened before. In the meantime, I've caused some what we call world tension. So in that case, that's represented by the number under this globe. See, Germany, 5% Rhineland. World tension is important for fascist and communist nations, but really important for democratic nations like the United Kingdom and France. Because world tension kind of dictates how militarized they can be. So, for example, the United Kingdom can't do a whole lot as a democratic nation until world tension reaches a specific point. It's like they can't guarantee another nation's independence until 25% world tension. They can't declare war until 90% world tension, and yada yada. You know, what often the UK and other democratic nations do is they can guarantee the independence of another nation, which lets them get into war early. But they also can't do things like change their economy from a civilian to a military economy until a certain point, which actually I think we can see. So you notice that they're in a civilian economy, but we're already partially mobilized. So in order to go to war economy, if you'll notice, for us, we only have to have 15% world tension, whereas they need like 30% world tension. That only works if the party is fascist or communist. If neither above is true, then you have to also be at war with an enemy country that has more than 40% of your total factories. So you can see everyone has different specifications, and your economy law is very important because it dedicates how much of your economy is producing garbage like toasters instead of things that you actually need for your military. And so in this case, with my partial mobilization, I need to have at least 20% of my total factories producing civilian goods, which makes it basically we get 15. We have to work basically half of it has to be done. So of 31, 15 have to be done, which gives us 17 left, or 16 and a half, because we're actually using one for trade. When you trade resources, because this game doesn't have a way to symbolize money, we trade resources for factories. So in this case, since I'm trading with Sweden, for 8 tungsten, they get to use one of my civilian factories for their own heavy industry. So it behooves people to have large factories, or large numbers of factories if they're trading, but not necessarily, depending on that. I also have trade laws, which are this limited exports thing right here. This denotes how much of my economy that I, resource-wise, can put up on the market for people to trade with me. With limited exports, that means 25% of the resources I gather are up for grabs on the market, and that means people can trade for them. Whereas most democratic nations have free trade, which means 80% of their main resources go up for grabs. In the case of a country like British Malaya, who I believe has the free trade law. No, they have export focus, so only half of their resources. But even then, if we look at that in the trade thing, there it is. That's 154 of their 308 tungsten. So you can see this is how a small, economically weak nation can keep up with larger ones if they have access to a lot of natural resources. So this little tiny island in British Malaya has 800 rubber, 300 tungsten, 32 steel, and 25 aluminum. They're and you can also tell who they're trading with too. Well, actually, you can't tell because you're not. I'm not in part of the Allies, but you can. Oh wait, no, actually, that's not where it is. You can tell through here. So they have no trade partners currently, whereas Sweden's trading with me. And that does increase your influence over them to a degree. So you'll notice Sweden, because I'm trading with them, has support for fascism. So fascism will start growing in their country just a little bit. And all of that. So this is a way you can kind of subtly influence politics of other nations, Alright, so let's continue on here. So you'll notice I just made a few small adjustments. Now we have a number of little things that we're adding on to this. So we finished the Rhineland, so the next thing I set up was the Reichsautobahn, which would be adding infrastructure for Brandenburg, Hanover, Thurgen, and Franken. That's an important thing to consider because it allows us to basically bypass constructing infrastructure ourselves in all of these areas, which is always important. Hang on a second.
Okay, the downstream the atrium, the atria, I should say, both of the material, will then squeeze. When it squeeze, you push the blood into the next vibration.
Okay. At least I don't have to worry about continuing for a second, but for the purposes of posterity, the Reichsautobahns. Anyway, you'll notice it's got, like, they also have these nice little descriptions, which is great. You know, you can keep up with that. And it'll kind of give you a basic example, and also will tell you what it does if you're not into the reading and trying to figure out what that means. So that's nice. And you'll see this goes down the west wall, which will give us modifiers and allow us to recruit new advisors, as well as building land forts. The industrial effort will then lead to building some civilian factories to jumpstart our economy, which then you can do more of, and then you get to the other half, which is like the treaty with the USSR. Alright, in the meantime, since it seems like my primary audience just got cut, I think we'll make this a nice little stopping point and continue on later.